You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's sort of demystifying this idea of writing. I think writing becomes, it's like we always say, you look at that blank page and it's scary, right? You're like, oh, what am I supposed to put down? No one wants to hear it. So it's demystifying the process of writing and how you write, but also this idea that education can be fun, right? How do you allow that fun and that joy, and the kids think of education and learning as fun and joyful and something they want to do?
You know, when I was hitchhiking the country when I was 16, I hitchhiked this entire country, from border to border and sea to shining sea. You know, for a whole year I was on the road. And I met a guy who was a writer, you know, and I was sitting there going, wow, man, and he was sitting there reading and writing, and he had a book about this thick. He said, before I get too old, he said, I'm 80 years old. I said, how long have you been out here on the road? He said, I've been out here 45 years. He said, I'm a medical doctor. I just got tired one day and walked out. But
Wow.
yeah. And he was a multi-millionaire.
Wow.
You know, he told me where he was from and, you know, all his family. And I'm sitting there going, well, why are you writing about this? This is not, he said, there's something in life here that we can express and help somebody else. And that's what writing does.
Right.
It brings out the most infinite parts of you and who you are. Am I right?
That's right.
You know, and looking at that video, you guys are good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. We try. Yeah, we keep trying.
Gina telling me I'm going to beat you up if you don't look at that video. I say, yes, ma'am, don't beat the hell out of me. You know, but tell me, what got you into this?
Yeah, well, I actually was a classroom teacher here in the city
Oh, Lord.
when I first got
Really?
involved back in 2003. So I taught 8th grade English. I had 5 classes a day, 30 kids each period, one of the lowest performing schools in the city. And my kids were brilliant, right? Obviously, they were really capable, and yet they weren't already proficient in reading and writing. And 826 Valencia had a satellite site in my school, and basically they brought in volunteers to work with the young people in my class, and suddenly my kids had a one-to-one help on their writing assignments. We had a writer's room, half the class would go in to get the one-on-one help. Suddenly I'd have 15 kids with me instead of 30, and I could target instruction for them. And as a result, my students' writing improved. I had like 95% of my kids doing the writing assignment, whereas before
Really?
it was too hard for them to access more independently, which is what you get in a public school with large class sizes. So I was hooked from there. I've been involved since 2003. I served on the board. I became a principal, and we had a writer's room on my campus, and I came on board as the executive director about 4 years ago. So for me, the hook was this idea of like, let's get the volunteers into our schools and make sure that they have access to very rigorous writing assignments with a lot of help. Because frankly, grading 130 papers as an English teacher is painful. And so we just wanted to make sure that, you know, now we've grown that program. We're in 3 schools as satellite sites. We serve most of the schools in San Francisco, and it's all this idea of getting more help to kids so that they can access really difficult work, rigorous work.
Mankind over there, I'm going to say something to you.
Okay.
You know, I thought I'd turn that thing down. I look at what you're doing, and I'm going to say something to you, and I want you to give me an expose. When kids write, even the bad things come out. You can sit there and see where they're in trouble. You can offer counseling. I mean, it's everything that you think you can do to help these kids grow. Am I right? They even tell you the rights and the wrongs of their minds and their hearts. That's what writing is.
That's correct.
I read that in a book someplace in the annals of my life.
I wish I read that.
But writing brings out the best, and it brings out the worst. And in this, you can read these kids and see where they are and where they're going, and possibly what's happening at home. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And how much they're under pressure. Writing puts everything into breeze. So I'm saying to the public out there, you guys, 826 Valencia, where do you guys, right down the road, a piece or two of these to say, huh? You know, you guys look at stuff like that and you can decipher a kid's personality sometimes. You can look at, you know, their feelings. All of this writing brings out. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you go, when you go over something these kids are writing, what do you look at?
That's a better question for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I totally agree. So our young people are processing the world around them, their
Right.
life experiences, and they're hearing about each other's experiences because we have public readings and they read their work in front of one another. They have an audience for their publication. So suddenly this idea of like what I'm experiencing is part of our story as a community is really powerful. Particularly if you're thinking about who writes and who has had the power to publish historically, that narrative that's mostly a white male dominant narrative, and then we say no, all our kids and kids of color and low-income people are having that power. It's really amazing. And they're not only processing their own stories, but they're also doing it through made-up stories. So one interesting...
Imagination.
Their imagination. So sometimes they take on the persona of somebody totally different from them to be able to explore some emotion and some feeling and some experiences, and that is equally powerful. And so what we do is we train the volunteers to help draw the stories out of the kids, because the kids have them. They just need like a coach to kind of say, awesome, explain more about this, what about that? And the coach helps the students get the ideas in their heads on paper. And then they revise before publishing, just like any professional publication.
Yeah, I think I remember growing up, working at 826, I remember growing up and you'd always hear children should be seen and not heard.
Oh boy.
Right? And
I can attest to that.
Right? And I think we do the exact opposite.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's all children should be seen and heard. Right?
Yeah.
And so having them, to your point, of putting their feelings down on paper, having them, instead of internalizing all of that, you get to put it out there into the world, through imagination, through their own personal stories, through what's going on in the family, in the neighborhood, in the world. I mean, we get stories of like things when I always say people think kids aren't paying attention, that they're always paying attention.
24/7.
24/7.
They see everything you
everything,
do.
everything.
And
they're
tell you what
processing
happened.
it.
Tell you what happened. I was working on my race car. And this is about 20 years ago. And so my 13-year-old, Lyndon, he kept watching. And the other one kept watching. The two of them sitting there watching. I was taking the carburetor off. I had bought this, what was it, a 74 Mustang 2, which was an ugly car. And we put these real wide wheels on it. We cut the fender wells and lowered it and everything. And I said, when you guys get old, you can have this car. And then we put a 351 out of a 71 Mustang, so it never smogged, okay? So I'd drive it around, I'd drive it to work, and the lady around the corner, I'd go, we'd go to DMV and get the red slips. So one day, 10 years later, my little one says, we're going to go ahead and take the carburetor off. We're going to go to the junkyard and take it. And I'm going, oh my God, what's happening here? They see every damn thing you do, and they emulate everything.
Yes.
I was surprised that they went to the junkyard and I'm sitting in the van. They took the carburetor off and brought the doggone thing back to me.
Wow.
And I was blown out. I said, my kids? Oh, Lord, have mercy. The prima donnas?
That's right.
I grew up mostly, my kids grew up mostly on military bases and military housing. I was in the Navy for 20 years. And they have a very well-rounded, view of life, because this is one of the things that writing does, especially when you're with a lot of cultures. Writing brings out all these feelings, So my oldest was married to Chinese. My number 2 has been married a couple of times. He's married Mexicans, and so I have 7 kids by him. My number 3, I got 2 by. He married a Mexicano too. My number 4 says, marriage ain't for me, never. But the fact of the matter is, and people say to me, well, why don't you teach your kids to marry this and that and that? When you grow up in this society, this is a world-class society now. and we're changing. We're in the evolution of time and who we are right now, and life is changing.
Yeah.
You know, and when these kids write about it, so when my kid turned 15, he was in Fairfield High. He wrote this essay. Couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there. I said, "Who wrote this?"
You hear that a lot, right, from parents, like, you wrote it?
It got to me.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what I'm looking at, you know, the communications that you guys have to the parents. So in essence, what you're doing is you're intervening in these kids' life and actually extracting some of the stuff that's happening at home too. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you get
That's
story.
a big one. I'm
It's a
gonna
big one.
let you guys talk. Both of you guys will talk about that one. I'm gonna shut up for a minute. Okay.
I think that life is difficult, right? Sometimes
Right.
life can be difficult. So if they are working on something at home, if they're processing something at home, and it comes to us, we at least we honor that, and then try to work with them and the parents and make sure that to provide whatever support we have. We are always trying to be a resource to the kids, to the parents, to the teachers, to the community. So whatever we can provide to support whatever is happening, we try to provide that.
Can I say you guys are somewhat of a medium or something like that? You're what do you call it? Intercessionist? Boy,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Wait, say that?
put that word in there.
That might be a bit more than we do.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you intercede, and when you see things, you say something about it. In other words,
Yeah, I mean,
and it brings out good things. Am I right?
yeah, I think it's more like the process of writing and organizing your thinking
Yeah.
is therapeutic, right? Like if you can think through what happened and tell that story, that's a very therapeutic process. So you can think about like solutions to that challenge that you had, and you can think about your next steps in your future. It's all through the writing that those things come up. We don't train our volunteers in like counseling per se, but they do coach the students to tell their stories in a way that can be heard, and that is a therapeutic process.
Well, I'm looking at the fact that you guys have some very intelligent people around you, especially volunteers.
Yeah.
That's an amalgamy of different peoples and different cultures. This is what opens our kids up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the hood, baby, is mind bending. It's like walking through a dark tunnel and something's going to come out the hole and grab you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So we're looking at you guys actually getting out there and doing something career-wise, because a lot of kids like to be. I wrote a book.
Oh wow.
I wrote the book.
All right.
I can't tell you what it is on this show. I'll tell you when.
You can't
Yeah,
ever.
I'll say the language is brash.
Oh, okay.
You know, and seriously, I wrote about some of my childhood, what formed some of the things. My mom passed when she was 32, but I remember the fact that she used to come and say, "I love you" every day. Boy, I was a bad little ass. I loved to fight. Skinny as I was, I loved to fight. I just stayed in trouble. That's maybe why I should get out of here for a minute. But on in life, I wrote about a lot of things. My time in the military, what I think about people, and this is what I try to transcend to our kids today, is to talk about it and get it out of there. Get it out, get it out, get it out.
Yeah.
Talk about it, write about it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the therapy part that you mentioned. Talk about the therapy part.
Well, I think I grew up writing. I liked writing, and so
Oh.
that helped me
Mm-hmm.
with, my grandmother worked. I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother worked all the time. There's a lot by myself all the time. So it's a lot of actually being able to express that through writing and
Mhm.
stories I was telling, and what was happening. I remember my grandmother read one, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know this was going on in your brain." But it actually allowed us to
It
talk.
surprises adults.
It
doesn't
surprised adults, but it
Adults
actually
are very
opened up an
surprised.
avenue to talk,
Yeah.
right? Which we hadn't done before, and so we started talking more.
What was that old
because-
cliche you was talking about? Children should be seen and not heard.
And not heard. Children should be seen and heard, right? And this sort of
That's the modern concept of this
Yeah.
whole thing. Am I right?
exactly.
But you're a mother, am I right?
I am.
How many kids you got?
I have two.
Which is the
5
mo-
and 7.
Which is the most difficult of the two that you have to communicate with?
Well, they're really young, so sometimes. But
Well, that's the age when they come with everything. Where do babies come from?
Yes.
Mine asked me that one day. I want to know where babies come from.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh Lord, have mercy.
Yeah, we haven't had that talk yet, but my son I asked him to help me with something, and he said, I need a reason why. And I said, excuse me, you're 7. You don't need a reason, you just have to help me. He said, I need a reason why.
Get out of here.
Yes, he did.
Oh my God.
He did.
That was very rough. He's coming at you like that.
Get over here.
That's my reason, right?
But I mean, I do think that it's normal to kind of like want to explore, like, what's the rationale? Like,
Yeah.
why are things the way they are? You know, and I feel like that's a really natural instinct. So my son's 7, you know, felt a little bit sad that he was it felt like he was questioning me, but in the end, right? Shouldn't all our kids be able to ask why, and shouldn't all our kids get explanations, and that their ideas and thoughts and feelings like matter? You know, so I kind of got over my initial upset.
Was it a shock?
Yes, I said,
You remember growing up
You know
here?
what you just said to me? That more than likely you have a very intelligent person.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Because
Yeah,
normally they're so enclosed in, well, I was at marbles and spinning tops and stuff like that, you know, years ago. Now the social media has opened a lot of kids up.
yeah,
You know, and they're intelligent, and they get out. They will hurt you too.
yeah.
They're gonna ask you questions. You will never $100,000 money walk
You're
out.
listening to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
Hey, we're back here. Okay, 826. You want to tell people where you are?
Well,
Numbers.
Yeah. So 826 Valencia is our name and our address here in San Francisco. So 826 Valencia Street in the Mission District between 19th and 20th. We just opened a new center in the Tenderloin neighborhood. It's fronted by a different store called King Carl's Emporium, and it's on Golden Gate and Leavenworth. So come by, and if you're interested in volunteering, we would love to have you.
Well, the question with that is, do you screen volunteers very carefully?
oh, yeah, definitely.
Background checks,
We
the
have
whole point.
Background checks. We have a very complex, and depending on the chapter, but I here we have a great orientation. First orientation lasts about 2 hours, maybe 3.
Wow.
Right.
Real them out, baby.
A real amount, and then the training and continually checking in with them. But the background check, because we want to make sure that the people who are working with the kids are all right, that they're up to stuff, and that they really want to be there. So you find signs of people who will come and they want to volunteer because they have to do some community service thing, or they want to volunteer because they have to, someone told them they have to. And we really want people who are dedicated and
But
want to be
that's
there
the
with
best people sometimes.
the people who are
Coerced.
coerced. Well, sometimes
Should we coerce them?
we should coerce them. Like, if you'll be coerced, come and volunteer.
That's a nice way of saying, get your ass out here. You better pay back to society.
We do find a lot of people will come in and volunteer, and I think that they're like, well, I got an hour, because we make it really flexible and open
Yeah.
for people to work with their schedules, and you'll have to find people who will say, I only have an hour a week, and then suddenly you see them there every day.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, okay?
Okay.
Let's learn about you. Where'd you come from?
Me? Oh.
Yeah.
I grew up in New York City.
Oh my
I grew up
God.
in Harlem.
Heavens of Mary.
Years ago.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
But if, San Francisco is my home. I've been here for about 20 years.
Uh-huh. Can I ask you a personal question?
Of course.
Really personal. What was it like transiting from New York to San Francisco?
Yeah.
I was in New York years and years ago in the Bronx.
Oh yeah.
Woo! I was like, oh my God.
The buildings are shorter. I think it's funny because New York, the way I grew up in New York, you're always on the go,
Yeah.
right? Everything's open all the time. Everyone's hustling and bustling. You have all those people, and I remember moving to San Francisco, and living here the first time and walking around and just being amazed at how much space I had on the street. To be able to actually walk down the street without being shoulder to shoulder with people. It's like, I would say, like, if you ever want to see the microcosm of New York City, is to walk down 42nd Street. And if you, in 42nd Street kind of slopes, so you can get a hill view of just the thousands of people who are just commuting, right?
Wow.
On every day, all the time. And you come to San Francisco and like, you could be at 10 o'clock at night and you're like, oh, this is quiet. Where are the people?
Did that really get to you?
It was weird at first. It was weird. I was so used to being around so many people.
I was a friend of mine when I was in the Navy. He lived on Long Island, so a little, bougie. The mom and dad was a little bougie, as they said, bourgeoisie for the people who are proper. And I was looking at the difference in life in just a mere mile and a half, 2 miles.
Exactly.
It changed like another world.
It's completely different. It's completely different. In Long Island, you're in Manhattan, and I was in Manhattan. I was in it, right?
Yeah.
And I had been in it my entire life, so it was always. I remember the first time going out, even out of Manhattan and into like the country,
Really?
and not being able to sleep because there were no noises from any cars.
Really?
And all you heard were like, I remember asking when the cops was like, "What is that sound?" He's like, "It's bugs," and I was like, "Oh, bugs sound like that?" Because you never heard them before, right? I'd only heard cars and people.
Right.
And suddenly I was outside of New York City. So, but I grew up in New York City. I was part of a nonprofit organization in New York City that helped put minority students in the private schools. This was back in the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
When that wasn't
You were walking on water, weren't you?
done. Well, it was, when that
Walking
wasn't
in
done.
fire.
Yeah, you going through it. I remember being one of 5 black kids in my private school of like 1,000 white kids. Right, and this was that one experience totally changed the path.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What was your most intense fear when you walked in there? This is because when kids when you guys elevate kids to think and they start going and transcending in life and going to different levels of life. What did you think when you walked in that school the first day, the first minute?
I think it was the fear that I wasn't good enough.
Ooh,
Right?
shit.
It's the fear that you walk in and you're like, you walk in and you're suddenly, I'd been through all of the program and I'd been through all of this education and school, they made us go to school during the summer, and I still walked in and I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough for this.
But you know what? That's the first thought, and I asked you that because it was pointed at you.
Yeah.
That's the very first thought of most of the African American males.
Yes.
And I use that term, we're Americans first. Africa is way back there. We're Americans. But we're people of color of America. That's why I like to put it. That's the first thought that comes to so many people. And this is the element that a lot of them fail on.
Yeah.
That one thought, that first impression. Am I right?
Exactly. And then when you...
So how did you get through all that?
Well, you're sitting in class and you start to answer questions, right? You see no one else is answering questions and you're like, you raise your hand and you answer the question and everybody's like, oh, and you do it again. And then suddenly you're realizing in that process that you are as good as everybody else.
Sure.
That you know more than you think you know. And that you can compete with everybody else. So
I'm going to put you on a billboard. I can become a millionaire because you just destroyed the fear that 80% of the young black men, guys, have when they go into a different situation.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of what you think about, you are good enough, right? Especially as for black men, because I know we come in situations and things that you see on the news and what's going on, right? Everything is bad, right? We are thugs, or we are not good enough, and
they don't listen to me enough.
No, right?
People don't listen to me enough.
Yeah, I think it's the confidence. That's the beauty of 826 is this confidence that it instills in kids and the self-esteem from being able to write and then being able to read your writing. We have book release parties and chapbook release parties.
Really?
There are all these opportunities for kids to actually speak in front of an audience, right? Because it was that piece of, I think, the fear comes from the fact of the unknown and not knowing if people are going to listen. And we give kids that audience of people that actually are listening to them and there to listen to their story.
It builds confidence, doesn't it? And you see the changes in these kids, am I right?
Exactly.
Confidence. There's 2 elements that I've learned in my lifetime that's the catalyst to who we are and what we are from the hood. Okay? Ghetto America, inner city, whatever you want to call the damn place, is accepting who you are and being able to grow and then being able to conquer that fear.
Exactly.
Am I right? Those are the things that I think that we are stymied by, those 3 elements. And there's a 4th one, a real bastard. It's called psychological aggressiveness. Because a lot of kids get angry when they fail.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
You want to expound on that?
Yeah, I would just add to your list, I think that families really believe in their kids and they do whatever they can to support their kids in general. And I try to talk to the students about making their parents proud and making their family proud of who
Right.
they are and having that influence, because there's so much love there, right? Even a parent who is struggling for whatever reason, working too hard, drug addicted, whatever that challenge is, or an abusive family situation, that parent always wants their kid to do better than they did. And I think this idea of like, what's going to make your parents proud of you is really motivating. So that I would add that to your list, this familial pride.
Yeah, I think you had, I remember, and I don't know what the statistics are now, but it was, the kids were deciding to drop out in the 3rd grade, right?
Really?
And they were deciding to drop out in the 3rd grade because school wasn't engaging. And so when a lot of why they weren't, and that's in 3rd grade, they were deciding, you know, this isn't for me.
One city right here, 56% of males of color across all spectrums, 56% drop out by the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Between the 8th and the 10th grade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a true stat.
Yeah.
Am I right?
It's, yeah. And which is, you know, and a lot of that is, how are we engaging kids to learn? And I think it's funny, right? When you look at a blended learning, and you hear a lot about personal learning and how we learn, instead of teaching them to the test, what are we teaching them with things that they actually are interested in and are actually going to motivate them to succeed and to move on and to get excited about it? I mean, I think I went to private school where suddenly it was like, oh, you want to learn computers, or you want to take that class? And that was completely different from when I was in public school, when it's like, sit in this seat and do this. Like, we did exams, but we didn't have any standardized tests. I remember the first time we didn't have a standardized test. I was like,
Really?
Wait, I'm ready to, I bought my pencils. I'm ready to fill in the bubbles, right?
You know what? Let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. My sister was a teacher for 45 years. Home ec, history.
Mhm.
And she almost died in the classroom. She just refused to leave. One time she said to me, I'm going to take my class out to a ranch, a horse ranch. And you just brought back something. And one little girl said, this place stinks. That was the whole thing across the whole. And the teacher, before the beginning of lunch and everything, we had a bag lunch. And everybody read their thoughts. And she asked, do you know what it takes to ride that horse there? And the girl said, the horse stinks, I don't want to get near it, I don't want to get dirty, all these things. So some kind of way they coaxed her into riding the horse. Do you know I saw her 25, 30 years later?
She still rides horses.
She still rides horses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that initial thought, when you change kids, this is what you convert. You convert it from the adolescent to middle adolescent to young adult. Am I right? This is critical. And you guys seem to have a good handle on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think that the school system, is challenged for sure, but there's so many teachers like your sister, right, who make an extra difference, and they go above and beyond, and they care about their kids so much. And really, our work is about honoring teachers in their work, because they have really tough jobs. And how do we support
They burn
them?
out too, don't they?
They burn out, and
They burn out.
I think they're underappreciated by society
Baby,
in
let me
general.
tell you some of the stuff some of the teachers said to me. Please go on.
Yeah, they're underappreciated by society in general. They work really hard. The majority of our teachers are dedicated, committed people. And so I think for 826, our model is about, we acknowledge that teachers are experts and they really know a lot about how to serve their kids. And one person, and what I had was 120, 150 kids on a daily basis, that's an impossible odd. And so how do we bring the volunteers in and make it more doable for them, because they do have the talent and skill to meet their kids' needs. So I think that's another piece in terms of schooling, is how do we reduce that ratio so that teachers can do their jobs well.
Well, you know what? One of the things that I see, my observation, and I get around a lot. I talk to a lot of people. I run my mouth tenaciously. One of the things I see that teachers they're downtrodden. The parents should be there supporting the teachers, and the families do not support the school systems now like they did years ago.
Yeah.
Even when we had nothing. My dad went to school one day. I got in a fight, a real big fight. He got 2-3 other people involved in the fight. And my dad went to school and he talked to the teacher. That teacher had a different concept. He said, I don't teach my son to come to school and fight. Matter of fact, when I get him home, I'm gonna beat his ass. He said that right in front. I was so embarrassed, I didn't know what to do. And I was a stick. I only weighed like 140 pounds, you know. But, you know, the support that the teachers had then, they don't have now because there's so much going on in life today.
Yeah.
You know, and you guys seem to intercede, and I'm going to use that word, you know, intercede in a lot of thinking patterns of a lot of people. Psychologically, the military teaches you to survive, that you can do anything. I grew up with that. I still have that mentality.
Yeah.
I can do it, and I can go anywhere. I don't give a damn who you are, what you are. I can stand eye to eye. And then, if you can teach kids that in the curriculum, and I'm looking at this little blip here, you know, by making writing fun and demystifying the progress and creating gorgeous books, magazines, and newspapers that honor their work and can inspire young people to gain critical skills and to write with confidence. That damn word confidence comes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a project with a high school here in San Francisco, and the students spent the semester learning about the Black Panthers. And so they wrote monologues, they wrote plays, they connected what the Black Panther movement with some of the police brutality that's happening now. So through all this writing and exploring, and then they acted out these pieces in front of an audience, right? That is a transformative experience where, one, they're better understanding their own history in many cases. We had Latino students taking roles of African American characters, and so this empathy that's happening, it was remarkable. The amount of pride, the confidence, what their ideas mattered, right? They did each other's monologues, so they had to empathize with other characters. It was just tremendous, and that was a collaboration with the American Conservatory Theater at a high school, and just another example of how these voices just can be explosive.
And I want to give some numbers out.
Okay.
Phone numbers, addresses, times, whatever, you know, you guys have for, you know.
Yeah, if you're interested in volunteering and getting involved with our kids, the only requirement is that you actually like young people. And you can check us out on our website, 826valencia.org. We have a lot of information about our programming and how to get involved. And our street addresses are 826 Valencia Street in the Mission, and then 180 Golden Gate Avenue in the Tenderloin, and we hope to see you involved.
So, I hear that you're an instrumentalist. You play several instruments.
Oh no, I don't play any music at all.
Did I get that mixed up with somebody else?
That is
No.
not
You don't play a guitar or something like that?
No, nothing.
Like that.
Nothing.
I'll do that
I'm
one.
so boring.
I was
So
gonna
what do you do in your spare time?
Oh
I want
my
to ask you
gosh.
that because it's a loaded question, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you.
I take care of my 2 small kids. So in my spare time, that's really like the majority of what I'm doing outside of work, working full time. That's a boring answer, but it's the truth.
You just answered the question.
Yes.
Because I asked one lady, I said, what do you do in your spare time? She said, are you hitting on me? I said, oh, hell no. I said, I can't afford you.
Yeah.
And she said to me, oh, I spend time at the beach and I go paint, and she's got 3 kids.
Yeah. No,
You know,
that's not
and,
me.
you know, and when you hear people like that, I know that you're communicating. I know you're practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
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 And you?
I was gonna say, for your listeners out there who are in San Francisco, if you want to find out more about just where other chapters are, just go to 826national.org, and that'll give you information about where 826 is everywhere. But in my free time, do I have free time?
I know.
I like to travel. Right?
Oh, boy.
I gained the love of travel I just sort of, it just came up. I just one day was like,
Where have you been?
Wow. Europe, a lot have been to Ghana, have been to Mexico, have been to, wow. This summer I'm going to New Zealand and Australia and Japan. Europe, oh my God, where have I been in Europe? London, Amsterdam.
Old, musty, and dirty.
Yeah, old cities. But I like, I'm a city
But
boy.
unique.
But unique and
Yeah.
different, right? It's the history. You walk into you go to London and you're in a building that was built in 17 or 1275 and and it's still standing.
Yeah.
And giving tours.
Yeah.
And you're walking through and
Yeah.
seeing this history, right? And
So I asked you that because you bring a well-rounded spectrum to who and what you're putting out there. And you know what? This is one of the things that the parents are looking for is what you guys do. You're a dedicated mom, which is hard as hell.
Yes.
And it takes a lot. You're probably gonna have a lot more gray hair when you get done.
Look at this.
God.
I've got
with questions like, give me a reason why.
So where did mine go? But and you're an over person, what I call an ever bright person, somebody who shines and who can say things. Go to Tangiers.
Tangiers.
You'll love Tangiers.
Okay.
Marrakesh.
I'm looking for a place.
You'll love Marrakesh too. I love Marrakesh because they say it's a Muslim company, a country. Boy, but they do drink a lot of wine. And they eat, man. They eat in the marketplace in Marrakesh. Is just, oh God, you can start eating at one end and go to the other end.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's
Good places to go.
Yeah.
Good places to go.
I like Spain. I like Barcelona.
Yeah. That's on my list. I have a whole list of places. I've been wanting to go to Japan for a long
I lived in
time.
Japan off and on for 20 years.
Yeah. I want to go someplace that was so different from every place else. And so I'm traveling. I like to travel by myself.
Yeah.
A lot of times because you just get a better feel.
Yep.
And you get to do what you want to do.
Yep.
And then you wind up finding things, or you wind up sitting someplace and someone's like, you should come to our house for dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're at this house with all these people.
Yeah,
and you're learning, instead of being on a tour, you're learning about people.
I think you're a very well-rounded person.
I try to be.
Yeah, and that's good. And you're one of the kind of people that grow all the time. You never stop growing.
No, I mean you don't. I think that's the thing, right? You always are. It's always new experiences.
Most black men don't grow. They get stagnant in life.
And, I think that was who did I learn that from?
Huh?
My mother. My mother and my grandmother.
They don't travel.
Yeah.
When I'm someplace in the world, I was in Auckland, and I'm going, what the hell look like? There were Nigerians and people from Ghana there, but I saw 2 Americans.
Yeah.
And Nikita Vaughn, everybody. Nikita is a world consummate traveler. She's a black woman. She's a personal friend of mine. And I adore the hell out of her because she gets out there and she
has a blog, doesn't she?
Yeah,
about
she does.
Traveling. I just heard about her. That's
Yeah,
what I was talking about.
Nikita Vaughn, and she is well-rounded. And when we talk, we have a good time talking sometimes. And a lot of the things is I tell people, you kind of open up your spirit and your soul when you're traveling the world. We live sequestered in this thing called the ghetto, which is redlining, which has come from redlining when I was a kid. And it was all planned. That's what people don't realize. All of this was not just by, it was a planned entity in the federal government that, to keep people. East LA is used to, God, the bridge going over 9th Street. You know what our 5th Street, you know what our thing was? We used to crawl up underneath inside the bridge, the infrastructure, and there was this little walkway underneath, and down is 5 stories, 6 stories to the base of the LA River. We used to crawl up underneath it and crawl across the whole bridge on these little walkway things.
Oh my.
Yeah, and get pictures.
My
yeah.
gosh. Where was Grandma then? She should have just popped up.
Yeah. My grandmother taught me to cook.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, here we go back, you guys are actually filling in for the parents on a great level right now because writing and getting people to think, parents right now are under such intense pressure.
Yeah.
In the political, I'm not supposed to get political, the political atmosphere in this country for not just minorities, anymore. But if everybody who's in the lower echelon of the financial status ladder, this is the whole thing. With millionaires and billionaires in charge of they're not nice.
That's right.
And so we have to fend for ourselves, and with the upcoming budgets and things like that, everybody's afraid. And fear, how do you get around fear with some of these children? What is the first thing that you do when you see the element of fear is invasive in somebody's life?
Yeah, I think with fear, it's just baby steps, okay? Like, if the whole writing assignment is too intense, like, what can you do? What's an idea that you could do, that you could start with, or relating to the young person and getting to know them personally to kind of assuage those fears. I think those are the two pieces, and lots of encouragement when they're feeling unsure of themselves. Because again, the blank page can be very intimidating. So, how do you just start with something? Start with one idea and write that down.
Yeah, we have one activity that is you cut pieces out from a magazine, and they put together a story from that. So it's not, you're not starting with
a collage or something.
A collage or something, right? But you're not starting with words. You're starting with actually something you make up. And so that fear of, like, instead of writing down, you're creating something else, and you're trying to be as funny or as whimsical as possible, but it's that sort of fear of, like, let's not, they said, like Bita said, baby steps, let's not start here. Let's start here and work our way to the point of when you finally have to put the story, you actually have something.
This is about growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the power of one-on-one attention. So a young person sitting down with an adult who's saying, wow, what do you think about that? And that's a great idea. I think that is just, it's very much a way to, like, get through something that can seem very intimidating, and turn it into something very validating. It's like, oh, I didn't know you thought that. That's great. You know?
I can't remember growing up, right? Did anyone ever ask me, well, what did you think about that?
Yeah.
Right? And this is a natural occurrence at 8 to 6, right? Is if someone's asking, well, what do you think?
Well, you know what? The interaction of parents and people who have kids or are in charge of kids, however, today is a lot less, because now life is much more demanding on both spectrum of life, on the small as well as the big. It's harder now. People are working 2-3 jobs now.
I was going to say that, You don't have time. If you're working 3 jobs, how much time can you devote to just spending time with your kids?
Yeah. I know one lady, she and I, we went out a few times, and you okay?
Coughing. I'm fine, thank you.
We went out a few times, and I interviewed her, over 3 times, and I was asking her about her family life. You know what happened in the end? And it really blew me away. We were sitting in the restaurant. I like Z's Cafe, and she started crying. And I'm sitting here going, oh, damn, what have I done now? And she said, you just made me aware that I'm not spending enough time with my children. That's why one of my sons got killed.
Oh, that's sad.
And how I say anything, I think I can think my way out of most situations, but that one there, I didn't know what to say, and it just, her 17-year-old had gotten killed in Oakland about 4 or 5 years ago. And, and I met her at the Mothers Against Violence thing in Ogawa Plaza, when I was speaking there, when I was running for mayor of Oakland 3.5 years ago. Yeah, I ran for mayor. I did pretty damn good, but I didn't have enough money. The current mayor, she's on the end with the money. Money does it all. But anyway, not going there. But the thing of it is that I could not answer her. And she said to me, I have to quit one of my jobs. And I said, how are you gonna make it? She said, I just bought me a brand new Honda, a $30,000 Honda. And she said, my priorities. And that told me in so many ways, in the inner cities, this is a lot of problems. We have misplaced priorities. Mr. James West out there, if you're listening, brother man, I'm gonna come back at you with some of the stuff that you were talking about over the years. People taking care of their kids. Misplaced priorities. We're putting more material value in front of the children. And then I was on Fruitvale yesterday. I saw this brand new car almost hyped up like, so it's a 2012, way up with big wheels and a funky paint job on it. And I'm going, wow. I wanted to ask the guy how much it cost, but I already know. The wheels were $2,000, the paint job was $5,000, and to change the upholstery was another $1,500. So you're looking at $7,500, $8,000, and he's not even.
You're listening to Thoughts of a Common Man with Charles the Chief Williams on Radio Valencia, the sounds of the mission.
I want to live. No, I just had to do that. Don't hit me there. Don't beat me up. Don't beat. I tell everybody, my producer beats me. Anyway, that's Gina Alexander. Gina, you want to say something to people about the things we do? Yeah, she's my brain.
This is Thoughts of a Common Man, where we like to highlight the unsung hero. There are so many people out here in the community doing spectacular things, and just because they're not a major music superstar or movie star or everything does not make them not important. They have a message and they do a lot for the community, and we like to showcase that.
Amen. Mercy. Right. One of the people that when I came out of Vietnam the second time, I was in pretty bad shape, and I was still in the military, still having problems. I was on search and rescue, which was not pretty. Father John Devaney was the catalyst in my life. Yeah, Catholic Church. So, not getting religious, but you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Here is where you find in religion today and yesterday, you find a lot of people, that are willing to put into, society. So I advise you to utilize, the things, the resources you have. And 826 Valencia is a stick in the mud, as they say. You're a banner. You're a flying banner for people who are in trouble, and I'm going to tell you that. Because getting kids to say something and talk to you and to actually express themselves is very, very hard. And it's some of the smaller ones is very, very hard. Am I right?
Yeah.
The big ones, they're just going to tell you what you don't want to hear. They're going to lie. They're going to cover up.
Yeah.
They're going to cover their fear. But the little ones, am I right? They're the ones that just.
I think just the reality is every single kid is so different. You know?
There you go.
You have the older student who could be really introverted or shut down, and then you have the younger kid who might be more talkative, and vice versa. I mean, they're just all so different, like what they care about, what makes them laugh, what makes them upset, and I think that's kind of the beauty of the work is that each individual student gets a platform, right? So it's not about like one cookie cutter way to support kids. It's finding lots of ways to support kids, getting to know them, and helping their way through. And I just, from my experience in the classroom where that was so challenging for me as a teacher, no matter how committed I was to them, to see how this one-on-one attention really helps kids blossom is just a joy.
Yeah. And to your point, the cookie, they're not a cookie cutter, right? They're individuals, and they feel and they see what's going on, and we never get the same story, right? You have a book.
Yeah.
It's never the same story, no matter what. You might have the same writing prompt, and you get wildly different experiences because all their experiences are different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, growing up, you ever thought you'd be a teacher?
I thought, growing up, so my family immigrated from Iran when I was just 2 into Los Angeles, and they really emphasized school. So I was one of those kids who really did well in school, cared about school. I was a big reader, less so of a writer, really interested in doing well academically, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And just that was what kids who were good in school did, is they became doctors. And it wasn't until I went to college and I started tutoring students in the Writing Center at Cal that I realized, no, I really like supporting people, and with writing in particular. And then became became a teacher from there and loved it. I mean, it's the hardest job ever.
Sure.
I will say I did it for 10 years in our public schools, and then I was a school site administrator for 8, so that's 18 years in San Francisco Unified School District. There is nothing harder than reforming our schools on behalf of all our kids.
I'm gonna throw something at you real hard, okay? What was the one element that helped you sustain that time?
I think just belief in the kids, right?
Okay.
Belief in the kids is what, if you're not there for that, then the obstacles are just too great. But if you believe in the kids, you are willing to deal with all the BS that gets in your way to serve them better. Because
There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's like strong institutional patterns that really do not work in favor of kids and families. And so, like, if you want to change that and improve their outcomes, it is an uphill battle, and you have to, at the baseline, believe in them and be willing to do the work.
But everything must change. Nothing stays the same.
Right?
What they say, Quincy Jones said, the young becomes the old and mysteries do unfold. And kids are a mystery unfolding every day. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's amazing. You know, just the kids we work with. I was just thinking, I also come back to my nieces of this. Every time you see them, they're a different person, right? As they grow and what they think about and what they talk about, and you know, I've been the CEO for 7 years, and I will go to different chapters, and kids who I've seen when they were like 10 are now thinking about college. Right? And this sort of like new, they grow, but they change, and how they talk about themselves in the world is so different. It's actually, it's wonderful, right? And I just, to what Bita's saying, if you're not in it for them, then there's no reason to be in the work, right?
Yeah.
So let
Find
your ego
something
aside,
else.
find something else to do, right?
to do.
Kids need your our undivided support and attention. I think that's what makes the program so great, because you get these people who want to come in and want to help and haven't figured out a way how outside of 826, and they come and they sit down and they work with kids, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not just like we're gonna open a book and do this. It's like I'm gonna have fun, you're gonna have fun, and this is what's gonna happen from it.
Yeah.
But isn't that what makes kids click when they say you're going to have fun? Because that's the part of their lives they look to have fun.
That's
Yeah.
They have no responsibility at that time, you know. But some of them do.
Yeah.
You remember latchkey kids when we were kids?
Yeah.
I was one
Yeah,
of
they're still,
Little-
yeah,
little
I was
latchkey
too.
kids.
I was a latchkey kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know.
Yep, I was too. I mean, I think it's fun. I always emphasize that it is fun, but it's also hard work. Like,
Yeah.
kids have bad days, and so the volunteer has to kind of deal with the bad day that the child is having, and especially with writing, there's so many like messages they have, like, I'm not a good writer, and so there's a lot of resistance that we have to work through with our young people. So it's not always fun, but I think the kids absolutely respond to the relationship. So if you could build a relationship and they like you, they perform for you. They want to reach your expectations, and so we really emphasize this relationship that you have with your student that you're tutoring, and then that leads to good writing, and then that's fun.
Exactly.
It's just not always fun at the beginning.
At the beginning, right? At the end. I remember we did one of our evaluations, and one of the kids said, I think they hadn't processed that the volunteers were doing the work for free. They were like, "Oh, I thought all these people were paid. They're doing this for free. Oh, I gotta work hard then,
Yeah.
because right, they're
Yeah.
suddenly giving up some time. They're working here
Yeah.
for free to help me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna rise to the occasion and go, oh, what can I do?"
That's a strange thing to say.
Yeah.
That kind of gets me a little bit, you know, to say he thought that much of the volunteer to actually want to excel.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what it is, though. I mean, I think the reality is, for our young people right now, there are so many obstacles, and there's so much challenge, and they're put down often, so that once they have somebody who believes in them and connects with them and builds on their strengths, they will rise to the occasion. Absolutely.
Definitely. If you're
Positive outlook.
positive outlook. I would think if you're in a class and there are 30 of you, and you never get a chance to actually talk to someone
Yeah.
else, right? To have someone there to like actually listen to you.
Yeah, I think the best teachers, they figure out their way to get to know their kids, right? But the needs are so varied, and the children are so unique that it's just an impossible task to really meet the needs of every single student. And I think a lot of times the kids in the middle, they don't act out all the time. They're not your superstar academic kids. Those kids in the middle a lot of times get overlooked in our schools. And so here it's really giving every single kid the support that they need so that they can grow in their skills and confidence.
Well, you know, one of the things about teachers, the social requirement on teachers is so high right now.
Yeah.
Go to this briefing, go to this meeting, go to this, go to
Yeah.
that. By the time you get to the 50th one, you're going, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, and you know what? Meetings are non-productive in a lot of ways, and, you know, and they never change. The school systems in Oakland, I look at them. I was talking to one of the teachers not too long ago, and it's synonymously of what she was saying, that they're required to attend stuff that just means nothing.
Yeah.
It's all politics.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think at its best, those meetings help develop, professional capacities and,
Right.
and they foster collaboration so that the staffs can learn from one another. That's what they should be doing. And I think the reality is that the demands on teachers' time are so big between
Right.
all the needs of the kids, meetings.
130 papers. I used to sit my sis down in and she'd come to my house
Yeah.
and sit down and say, I don't want to be in my house because it's junky.
Yeah.
And there's so much. So she would go in my garage where I had this nice little setup, and she would go out there and correct papers sometime.
Yeah.
That is so mind-boggling, and that is so draining. And then she said, well, you can take me home now.
Yeah.
Right, it's like, I came to work on papers. I don't have time to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would say a lot of times with the way assessments have gone and it's bubbling in, like Gerald was talking about earlier, really that emphasis on writing and the writing process has fallen by the wayside a little bit. It's coming back in San Francisco schools using writers' college techniques where students are drafting and redrafting. But I remember back 15 years ago when I was teaching, anytime I signed a writing project, I spent 16 hours
Wow.
giving my students feedback. It was literally, I would block off a weekend and I'd go Saturday 8 hours, Sunday 8 hours, so
Wow.
that I could give them feedback. And I'd have to do that in multiple rounds, right? Because they had multiple
So how
drafts.
did you rest? When did you rest?
I think really our strong teachers tend to not rest. They take on a lot. And
So what about burnout?
Yeah, and I think burnout and the lack of recognition and low salaries and the affordability crisis we have here in San Francisco, that's why we do not retain our strongest teachers in those roles. I actually went on to school administration, but have since left, and it's what, there has to be a better solution so that we can retain our talent in our schools. And really, 826 Valencia is about just bringing in more resources so that teachers feel supported and they don't burn out.
Well, one of the things that I see is the fact that, 15-hour days is what teachers actually spend.
Absolutely.
That's what one lady told me. She's up 12, 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
And the really harrowing thing about the whole thing that really pissed me off really bad talking to her is she had went out and she had bought pads and pencils and erasers and glue and colors.
Yeah.
So when she got done, I called a friend of mine, and he took a box. The box that Kleenex come in, the big huge box like this.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where he got the stuff, but he took it over and gave it to her.
Mhm.
Told her,
Yep.
and there's the people out there who can do that.
Yeah.
If you got something to give, I think you guys are in line for that. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Our little programs are free of charge.
Yeah.
Everything we do
Really?
with the kids, it's all free of charge. We don't want the kids to have to pay anything. So when a lot of how we run is donations. So foundations, corporations, people, like regular people coming and helping us.
Well, we got to get you $1 million donor then.
That would be great. That's what we need.
Okay, I need to borrow low. Mr. the Chief. 826 Valencia, give him $1 million.
Give $1 million.
I love it. I'll split it with Gerald and
Yeah.
get $1 million.
The thing about it is that you guys are pinnacles of our community, and I think you're unsung heroes.
Thank you very
so
much.
This is
Thank you.
and this is one of the things. I am so glad that you guys came. We got some time left. But I have to say something. one teacher that I really fell in love with, boy, I loved her with every inch of my feet. I didn't know how to draw. I'm pretty good at it. So, she said, well, here, go out and draw scenery, draw flowers, or draw something like that. And she came in one day and I was drawing cars, And she said, what's your favorite car? I said, 1955 Corvette. She said, well, that's going to be your class project. Man, I was so happy. I did not know what to do. So I went out and I used to throw papers in the evening time. And I went out and threw my papers, and I went and got an easel, and I got this really good paper, this white paper. And it was about maybe 3.5, almost 4 feet. I drew the car in intricate, details, and I drew her in the car.
That's awesome. And that's like what good educators do, right? They figure out what do each people care about, each student care about, and how do we help them and get them excited about other things through the one thing. So did you draw anything else besides that car? Like, did you go on to draw other things?
I still love to draw cars.
Yeah.
And I build cars now,
Yeah.
and it just, it opened up a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I had a good time.
Yeah.
School was interesting whenever I got back there. I was late getting back sometime, but but I like that. And I drew I tried one portrait of a lady. It took me forever to draw that, and it came out really, really nice. And she gave me $25.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Well, I was 14.
Yeah.
And that's $1 million.
Yeah.
$25.
God, you know how much candy you can get? You know how sick you can get? I eat hamburgers every day. My dad said, you're not eating at home. I said, well, I got money. And we're back again. We're right here, and oh my God, it's almost 11:40.
Huh?
We've been here 2 hours almost?
Have we? Oh my God.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's been great.
Flying by.
Time is flying when you're having fun. Give me some ideas where you're going with 826.
Yeah, well, I think 826 Valencia is continuing to expand to meet the needs of the city, of the kids in the city. We, in about a year and a half, are going to build a third center in the Mission Bay, which is soon going to be home to about 1,000 low-income children. And so that'll be 3 centers, 3 school sites. The need for our services far outweighs our capacity.
Sure.
Looking for volunteers to get involved and work side by side with our students. We're also looking for donations. We made a pledge earlier for that. So if anybody has $1 million or any denomination less than that, we'll also work. Or more than that, actually.
Or more than that. If you have
We'll
more
also
than $1 million, we'll take that.
So all our programs are free for young people here in San Francisco, and that's what we're up to.
And nationally, we're working to open 3 new chapters: New Orleans, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and across the bridge in Oakland. And
Wow.
we are debuting a new digital site called 826 Digital, which will have our writing lessons and our student writing online for teachers to access no matter where they are. So you don't have to be, if you're a teacher, you don't have to
So,
be
wait a minute, hold it. Back up here, sports fan.
Mhm.
You're going to do this for everybody? Is something that anybody can log on to?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I think what we do is special and amazing, and we've seen it's proven, and we've seen it, and we hear it's what where we would get calls, like 3 or 4 calls a week of people who wanted to start an 826, right, or wanted to do something with 826, and a lot of those places are in cities where there's not transportation or the school system or donations, so we were just like, well, the writing, what I think really people love is this ability to get and help kids to write and get excited about writing. And so for teachers was how could we put that information in the hands of everybody, and have them work, be able to take writing lessons and then share the student writing. We have 15 years of student writing. We've got thousands of pieces of work of student writing, from poetry, fiction, nonfiction, everything. And so how could we use that to benefit teachers, and as Bita said, to be a resource to teachers. I think that's what the site will be.
Wow. So nationally, how many people are you projected to have through your programs?
This year was about 30. This past year was about 32,000 young people. By 2020, we're estimating about 75,000.
Wow. That's a whole lot of people.
That's a whole lot of kids, right? And it can change. Those kids can change the world, right? 75,000 kids can change the world.
Yeah.
Wow. I tell you, we're looking at the fact, I'm looking at here, 75,000 kids. How many centers?
Currently 7. Soon, by 2020, it'll be 10. Between those centers and the digital platform, yeah, we're thinking it'll be 75,000, if not more.
Wow. Tell me something.
Yes.
If you could change the world, what would you do? In your whole idea?
Wow.
If I could change the world, it would really be around resources to schools. I think education is it's a way to really make our world better, and that the schools need a lot of help. They're good people trying to do the work, but we really need to put a lot more resources in and make some very big changes to make a difference. And I mean, I also think that there should be an 826 in every city across the planet. But so I gave you 2 things.
And when I said the word impact, what does that say to you?
Impact. I think it is how are we, I think about, at least in terms of how are we providing the best experience for kids, and how are we looking at the impacts on their academic success, on their life success, self-esteem, on their communication skills, of this sort of, how are we providing the level of service we need to be able to impact the lives of young people across the country. And so that, when I think about that, is really, it's more on us, of how are we doing what we do, and the quality of what we do to impact kids.
Homeless mothers, is that a big thing in your life?
Homeless mothers.
You see a lot of homeless kids now, homeless families in general.
We are finding, with our new center in the Tenderloin neighborhood, a number of our children live, well, whether they're homeless or formerly homeless, yeah, absolutely need a lot more support than.
So what are some of the problems you see in kids like this when it comes to expression?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happening with kids who are under duress, right? That's really what it is. You don't have a home, you're worried about your meal, your parents are stressed out, your parent is stressed out. So they're under duress. That's a very traumatic place to be learning, right? So I think that the first thing is how do we make sure these young people get their basic needs met, and then extend to, exploring their imagination and expression and processing the world around them. But really, on a fundamental level, if they don't have their basic needs met, what else can we be doing on their behalf? And that's working with the parent, working with the children themselves. When I was a principal, we used to do the laundry for homeless children.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We'd have meals set aside for them in the morning, find out ways that they could do these things without everybody else knowing, so that they didn't have the stigma. I mean, you just have to figure out what the children need, get them the help, and all do that without the stigma that comes with it.
And we're back again. And you guys want to put some numbers out? Give them your name, your full name, your street address, and how many steps you take. Do you take the 10,000 a day or whatever that is? Keep all this stress. You guys live under a lot of stress. Damn.
I go to gym.
Really? How do you cope with that?
You gotta keep your eye on the ball. What are you doing this for?
Yeah.
That kind of motivates you
Exactly.
to work it out.
Yeah,
Okay, you want to put your numbers out there again, on the address and everything?
Yeah, my name is Bita Nazarian. I'm the executive director of 826 Valencia here in San Francisco. That's our name and our address, so 826 Valencia Street in the Mission District. We have a second center in the Tenderloin called King Carl's Emporium at 180 Golden Gate Avenue. And you can find out a lot of info at 826valencia.org. Become a volunteer, donate, get involved. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and so I'm Gerald Richards, the CEO of 826 National, the national network. And our offices are here, also in San Francisco, on Mid-Market on Gulf Street, 44 Gulf Street. But you can find out more about the 826 Network and our other chapters at 826national.org or follow us on Twitter at 826national.
Hey, you know what? We want a big donor. We want $1 million. I met a gentleman when I was, I'm not going to tell you who he is. His first name is Merle, but he's quite affluent, lives out above the Visadero, and he and we talk every once in a while. And if you want to see a human being that does a lot for people, Merle is it, and I had to put his name out there because he is, and Zenny Abraham. Zenny is another one that is, that's a personal friend of mine, Zenny. And these are people who are spark plugs in our society, just like you guys are.
Thank you.
One more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bita Nazarian, check us out at 826valencia.org and please get involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gerald Richards at 826national.org. Yeah, volunteer.
You know what you sound like? You sound like a big dollar CEO, very smooth, very articulate. You do. You got that corporate cultural language,
And so far, I've never had a corporate job in my life. That's right.
but you're very smooth. You know, and my old dad just said, you can talk the drawers off a brass monkey.
I had enough of my grandmother to be very proud of.
Yeah, okay. Tell me something. Again, where are you going with this program? What do you guys endeavor to do this year? We're going to put that out one more time.
We are continuing to expand here in San Francisco to a new neighborhood, the Mission Bay, serving more low-income kids of color. Get involved.
Yeah, and our goal is to open up 3 new centers by 2020 and to debut our digital platform, 826 Digital. It'll be 826digital.org.
Hey, Dan, that's about does it. And we're going to get out of here. We're going to back out here, madam. And we're going to back up. And the chief loves you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Laban Godfrey. The chief loves you, baby. Hang in there.